Demon AI. Demon AI.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to take source material, really dig into the nuances, and give you that intellectual shortcut to what matters most. And today, we're tackling a concept that, it applies everywhere, whether you're managing a team or, running a marathon or even navigating a spiritual life.
It's that tension, right? The tension between performance and just acceptance.
Exactly. And we're diving specifically into the world of Christian discipleship, looking at this idea of spiritual striving versus, accepted rest.
And our core source for this is a really fascinating pastoral reflection.
It's called Stop Hurting the Cats When We Try to Impress a God Who's Already Pleased. It's written by Javen Bradley.
And Bradley's background is interesting. He's a pastor, an author, sure, but he's also noted as a theologian, a musician, even an exorcist.
Which, tells you we should probably expect a perspective that's broad, maybe a little challenging, and definitely not afraid of some deep truths. So the mission of this deep dive is to really get at the core question Bradley poses. When we look at our own spiritual efforts, does the motivation sound like genuine, relaxed devotion?
Or does it sound like frantic panic?
Right. And to help us grapple with that, he gives us this wonderfully absurd central metaphor. And it involves a tiny, very stressed out dog.
Right.
We're looking at how this quiet danger of what he calls fear-based works. How that can turn a relationship with Jesus from something living and dynamic
Into a checklist. A dry, soul-sucking checklist.
Okay, let's unpack this.
That concept alone, fear-based, works. It's so potent because it really speaks to a universal human struggle, doesn't it? That feeling that we constantly have to justify our existence or our value. It just strips away all the external performance and makes you look at the engine.
Is it running on joy or is it running on panic?
Exactly.
Right.
Is the engine running on joy or is it running on the frantic energy of inadequacy?
Yeah, and the analogy Bradley uses is so instantly relatable it almost hurts.
Yeah.
He talks about his own tiny dog.
A good boy, he says. A big softy.
Right, but he apparently still has these deep, primal, totally unnecessary, Sheltie herding instincts.
And this is where the metaphor just clicks. The dog will be completely peaceful. Maybe he's relaxing, napping, totally fine with the cats in the room.
They're all just coexisting.
But the absolute second the owner walks in, this dog feels this overwhelming, almost existential need to prove his worth.
The performance begins. He just suddenly dashes toward the cats, gives this little low growl, and starts this bizarre, forced herding maneuver.
He's trying to show off. He's saying, look at me, I'm being useful, I'm fulfilling my dog duties, please accept me.
Yeah.
And the irony is the dog genuinely believes this frantic performance is making him better or, more valuable in his owner's eyes.
But the owner says two things. One, he is, and this is a quote, already impressed. And two, the performance is actually annoying. It's creating chaos where there was peace just moments before.
It's totally counterproductive.
And Bradley just nails the theological point with the owner's perspective. The acceptance is all about identity, not effort. He says, he is my dog, and therefore he is accepted.
Right. I do not need him to try to be something that he deems better to be accepted. The relationship isn't based on the frantic herding.
It's not.
It's just the perfect illustration of that misplaced energy. You see people doing this all the time, reverting to that frantic performance mode, whether it's at work or in their spiritual life, because deep down, I think they mistake being useful for being loved.
That is the psychological heart of it. Why do we, as capable, rational adults, do the exact same thing as this tiny dog?
We seem to be hardwired to believe our value comes from our output.
And Bradley shows how quickly that impulse can take over. He uses this anecdote from his college days when he tried to kind of engineer his own spiritual growth.
Right, he created a literal checklist.
An actual daily checklist.
Yeah.
To track his progress in becoming a, quote, better Christian. It's that impulse, right? If I can quantify it, I can control it. And if I control it, I can make sure I have God's approval.
But the story gets really powerful when his mentor steps in. Bradley hasn't even started the checklist yet.
Not even day one.
And his mentor just offers this prophetic prayer that shuts the whole thing down before it even begins. The prayer was just, God, would you not be a checklist to Jimin?
Wow. That must have felt like getting hit by a spiritual 2x4.
Oh, for sure.
It just immediately highlights the difference between approaching God as, a vending machine that you feed works into, versus approaching God as a person you relate to. That desire to prove ourselves to God to earn his attention gets challenged right there
Yeah.
by the idea that grace comes first. It preempts the whole effort.
And that's a crucial distinction. The source material is challenging the source of the effort, not the effort itself.
Which brings up the immediate tension point. We aren't suggesting actions don't matter at all.
No, not at all.
In a Christian context, the whole relationship between grace and works is like the classic spiritual debate.
Absolutely. And the article is very sophisticated on this point. It says plainly, works are expected of Christians. They're even required. So we have to be incredibly careful not to fall into this idea that, since grace covers everything, actions don't matter. They do.
They really do.
What's fascinating here is that the deep dive has to start by making a necessary distinction for you, the learner. We have to differentiate between works that are fear-based and works that are overflow-based.
That's the fulcrum of the whole thing.
It is.
So let's define that with a real example. What does fear-based generosity look like versus overflow-based generosity?
Okay, so fear-based generosity is often transactional. You're giving money or time because you feel guilted into it, or maybe you believe that this specific action is going to unlock a specific blessing.
Or just keep you in good standing.
Right. It's a box you check on the spiritual ledger. It's the tiny dog growling at the cats because the owner is watching. It feels heavy, compulsory.
Okay, whereas overflow-based generosity.
Overflow-based generosity is reactive. It comes from a heart that is so fundamentally changed by acceptance, that holding on to your resources or your comfort, it just feels incompatible with your new identity. You give because you can't help it.
Not because you must.
Exactly. It feels light and natural, like water flowing downhill.
This is where the theological rubber meets the road. And Bradley gives us some critical context by bringing in E.P. Sanders.
And for anyone familiar with biblical scholarship, Sanders is a massive figure. He's known for driving the new perspective on Paul, which re-examined how first-century Judaism and Paul's idea of grace and law all intersected.
Yeah, he's a big deal.
A huge deal. Sanders basically shifted the entire discussion around works of the law. He helped clarify that, in Paul's view, works were often about maintaining community boundaries, not about earning individual salvation.
And the quote Bradley includes is just the perfect summary of that nuance.
It is. The source quotes Sanders directly, and it gives the necessary balance. Salvation is by grace, but judgment is according to works.
Okay, hold on. Works are the condition of remaining in, but they do not earn salvation.
Right. It's profound.
It really is.
Yeah.
It clarifies that salvation is a gift. You receive it purely by grace, but then it immediately says your actions after that are serious. Works don't buy the gift.
But they're the condition of remaining in. It's a shift from earning your entry to demonstrating that you already have an established relationship. The works become a witness.
The evidence.
The evidence of the new life. The natural byproduct of a heart that is already accepted and transformed. It's when we try to make works the currency that they become fear-based and turn into that agonizing checklist.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Because we connect this all back to the dog analogy. We can redefine the problem of performance. Fear-based works are just trying to impress the owner when the owner is already pleased.
And the most destructive part.
The most destructive outcome is that we end up morphing this deep personal relationship with Jesus from a person into a checklist.
But isn't some structure and discipline necessary? I mean, where's the line between healthy spiritual discipline and a soul-sucking checklist?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And I think the difference is in the direction of the flow. Healthy discipline flows from the relationship I read because I love him, not so that he will love me. But a checklist is focused on meeting a metric to get validation.
So one is a person, the other is a...
A checklist. A person offers presence, conversation, a relationship built on acceptance. A checklist just offers anxiety, performance pressure, and, inevitable failure.
The whole dynamic is fundamentally altered. If performance is the problem, then the solution has to restore the relationship to the center.
Right.
And Bradley simplifies the core identity of Christianity here. He strips away all the cultural baggage down to this beautiful, singular concept. It is simply a love affair with Jesus.
And this shift is so crucial. He says that when a person is truly in love, the works, the service, the daily effort, the self-discipline, it all comes naturally.
It flows out of the overflow of your heart.
Exactly. Yeah. The actions are a joyful symptom of the relationship being rich, not a desperate attempt to create one.
And that overflow model is what produces true, sustainable transformation. The source material then details 3 specific benefits that come when a spiritual life is grounded in this love affair. These are the tangible ways life changes for you.
The first one is compassion. And it's not just about, doing nice things. The source says the compassion of Jesus so overwhelms the person that they, quote, can't help but mirror it.
It becomes an involuntary reaction, not a mandated task.
Yeah.
Just think about that difference for a second. When compassion is mandatory, it often runs out pretty quickly, especially when it's tested.
For sure.
But when it's over a slow base, it's a sustainable resource.
Right.
Because it's being reflected, not generated. You're not forcing yourself to be compassionate. You're just reacting to the overwhelming compassion you've already received.
So it shifts the whole paradigm from self-generated effort to a state of just receiving and reflecting. So what's the second transformative outcome?
The second is related to wisdom and thinking. Time spent in that intimate presence provides a wisdom that causes one to think differently than they used to.
So it goes deeper than just behavior.
Much deeper. The transformation moves past just behavior modification and into the realm of mental processing, your actual thought patterns. You start seeing the world through a new lens, which is way more powerful than just changing a habit.
So the external work changes because the internal wisdom has been transformed by the relationship.
Precisely. And the third, which is probably the most practical for those of you trying to navigate a world of, constant variables and anxiety, is stability.
And stability is the absolute opposite of the frantic panic we started with.
Exactly.
The source notes that your joy and your peace, when they're grounded in this model, they do not fluctuate drastically with the variables of life.
And that's because the stability is grounded in a person rather than in some fluctuating external system or, a performance metric. The source even specifically defines this person as the way, the truth, and the life.
And if your peace is tied to something defined by 3 immutable absolutes, the way, the truth, and the life, you've achieved a stability that the tiny dog completely lacked. The dog's peace was tied to the owner's visible approval, which required a performance every single time the owner walked in the room.
But if your acceptance is guaranteed by something immovable, then the variables of the world, whether you succeed, whether you fail, whether your daily checklist is completed, they become irrelevant to your core identity.
Yeah.
The anxiety of hurting the cats just completely disappears because your stability is guaranteed by the constant, immovable nature of the one you're relating to.
Which brings us full circle. We started with the tiny dog desperately trying to impress his owner, forcing all this unnecessary work and chaos.
Right.
And we end with the calling to simply embrace that acceptance, grounding our identity in a person, and just letting the resulting love affair generate the works naturally.
So what does this all mean?
It means the journey of discipleship is less about the daily checklist you're trying to complete for God to earn his attention. And it's more about cultivating a depth of connection that naturally compels you to act.
The energy shifts.
It totally shifts from desperate striving to joyful reflection.
And the ultimate calling for the Christian, as it's described in the source material, it's not about the heavy effort itself. It's about the devotion that makes the effort a joy. It is to be so overwhelmed with Christ that to live is Christ and to die is gain. So if we accept that stability, that joy and peace are truly grounded in someone defined as the way, the truth, and the life, we have to ask ourselves a final provocative thought.
Okay.
If our core identity and acceptance are genuinely settled, what happens to our daily decision-making, large and small, when the world's variables, financial success, social approval, even immediate safety, are rendered irrelevant to that core stability? That profound lack of pressure is what you get to explore next.